Good afternoon, everybody. It's David Schlotthauer here with a very important, urgent update on Hurricane Milton for Sunday, October the 6th, 2024. As always, my thoughts in this live stream are mine alone, and making any decisions regarding Milton, please consult the National Hurricane Center, your local weather officials for the latest information because this is evolving very quickly, just as we expected it to be as of last night's update. So looking at the GOES 16 band 2 visible reflectance satellite imagery here, courtesy of cyclonicwx.com. And what we have here is that the system is beginning to develop a very intense inner core structure. It is still a little open in some portions of the system. You can see there is this smoother cirrus. We're not seeing really deep, thick convection wrapping all the way around. It is beginning to show signs of that, but each time it tries to do that, it fails to get all the way around here, which is likely due to some drier air intruding into the system right now. But if we look at this closely, there is a new burst of deep convection that has really blossomed up. And this is not just ordinary convection. These are vertical hot towers that have very cold cloud tops of at least negative 80, negative 90 degrees Celsius. And we'll actually be looking at that on the infrared. So looking at that infrared satellite imagery, you can see that the deep convection here, and if we pause a few of these frames, you could see right in here, see that little area of hot towers going up? That is 90 Celsius. That is negative 90 Celsius, below zero. That is very, very cold. That's in the range of negative 130, negative 135. Actually, might even be colder than that. Might be as cold as negative 140 degrees Fahrenheit. So these are very tall cloud tops, reaching heights of about maybe 60,000 feet, or even higher perhaps, maybe even close to 70,000 feet. So this is a storm to not mess with at all, and we're really starting to see all that convection trying to wrap all the way around. You can see we had earlier attempts of that, and now we're seeing a reattempt in the southeastern quadrant of the circulation where the plane did find hurricane force winds earlier, which is why this is being upgraded to a hurricane right now. Doesn't look like one when you look at the just blobby nature of this, but remember, this is a very compact system, and compact systems might be mistakenly weaker than what is actually in reality. And what we're seeing here is just that. A system on a satellite presentation with only deep convection doesn't really look like that of a classic swirling where we have like a lot of cirrus banding kind of out coming from the system. We're starting to see a little bit of that, but right now it looks kind of hidden. But right now that doesn't mean the system is weak either. So looking at the National Hurricane Center, actually, you know what? We're going to jump right into our hurricane models, and then we'll be looking at the National Hurricane Center. So this is very, very concerning, and I don't say this very lightly because, as I did state in last night's live stream, that until we get that recon data, everything's kind of fuzzy and kind of blurry. We just don't know how strong this is actually going to get. Well, we have some very worst case scenario news to share with you. Despite the 2 recon aircraft that did investigate the system this morning, which, by the way, the pressure has dropped more than 6 to 8 millibars within the last, well, between those 2 missions. The Miss Piggy mission flew into the system initially. Pressure was like 992 millibars, and now it's down to like 983 millibars. So we've really dropped the pressure this afternoon on the system. So that really shines some light on the fidelity or the fragility on these models, these hurricane models. And we're just going to walk through one by one. So we're going to start with the H-WRF, and then we're going to look at our halves group models. So when we go forward here, this is initialized. So pressure 987 millibars, which again, that was as of 18Z. So that was 11 o'clock this morning. I was at church and we saw the pressure data, or before church started, I was able to see the central pressure in there, and it really matches quite closely. Winds are hurricane force, so that's what they found. So the system is actually outperforming a little bit than what the HWRF is showing, and that's a little concerning when you think about it. Because watch what happens. So the system slowly regroups itself by this afternoon, or by this evening. So we have another about 4 or 5 hours before we have another recon mission in there, probably a little sooner than that. But this is showing that we do in fact have hurricane force winds. We're already seeing those winds right now, and max winds are about 71 to 75 knots at the moment. So we're in the book of about 80 to 85-ish miles an hour at the moment. And so this kind of really illustrates this well. The system really intensifies overnight tonight at a very explosive rate. So unbelievable. We could have a major hurricane by tonight. I mean, we did not even see a hurricane until late this morning, early afternoon. But by tonight, we could see a major hurricane here with winds of about 115 miles per hour. And in illustration of that, this is in about the next 12 to 18 hours. So this really increases markedly in that short amount of time in relative terms to the storm. Now, this gets even stronger as we go into Monday morning, and then Monday afternoon, this crosses just to the north of the Yucatan Peninsula and just north of this island. Thank goodness I don't think anyone lives on that. I got told that no one does, I believe, so that is some good news to keep in mind, that no one lives on that island, because this would have been a devastating situation for this island here north of the Yucatan. And this is in 45 hours, and as you can see this purple donut, anything in purple is hurricane force winds or 64 knots. So we can see the radial here, a very symmetrical wind field. This is not asymmetrical at all. This is really well bundled and tightened up. The system is somewhat still in a formative stage, so this might give us little surprises, but that eye wall, the stronger this gets, the more likelihood that this system is likely to close off an eye wall and keep it closed more contingently. So pressure here, 936 millibars. This is a Category 4 hurricane. Category 4 hurricane, even before the sun comes up. Yeah, we're talking 5 in the morning. Yeah, it's still dark at 5 in the morning across the Gulf of Mexico here. So this is still nighttime, and literally we start the night with right about here, roughly speaking. The sun sets earlier. Actually, wait, let me go back. So, okay, right here is a little bit better. I was going ahead of myself. So we start tonight with a hurricane, a Category 1 or 2, and then we end the night with a Category 3 or even a 4, and then it maintains that intensity. Now, does this get stronger? This is Tuesday morning, and it does get a little stronger here, 120 knots, but it gets even stronger than that, perhaps. Right about here is when we can see the peak intensity in about 60 hours, showing about a 125 knot system. But as we did state, the system is outperforming the models just a little bit. And as simple as a couple of millibars deeper than what our initialization models are showing make all the difference. And right now, this is a Category 4 hurricane, a mid-grade Cat 4 intensity here with about 145 miles an hour. Now, the concerning thing about the HWRF is it really does not show much weakening with this at all. This is still a powerful Category 4, and it impacts northern Tampa area. Now, this is still an outlier scenario, given that the NHC track forecast has shifted southward with the model guidance. But look at what it's still showing, though. This little belt here on the western side of major hurricane force winds, pretty close to Category 4, Category 4 intensity, but most likely a Category 3. And this moves right over Florida, and then even on the other side, we could still see hurricane force winds. So, yeah, this is going to make the whole crossing over Florida here. And this is a relatively narrowest patch of land. So the fact that it's going to be, if it's stronger here, it could end up being a little stronger than what models are showing on the other side. And this, again, would be making landfall by Thursday morning. We're now thinking like Wednesday night into Thursday morning is still the deadline here when this makes landfall. And I cannot stress enough, Tampa Bay is right here. Hurricane force winds are a very big possibility here, okay? This is a generous model. It's probably going to be a little stronger than this. High in Cat 3, low in Cat 4 intensity. And yes, if the center is a little closer, you can certainly get the worst case scenario over the Tampa Bay area. Okay, so I want to really make that clear that hurricane watches or even hurricane warnings could be issued or will likely be issued in the next advisory from the National Hurricane Center. We'll be looking at that here shortly. All right, so on the HMON, shows a similar outcome here. The system really intensifies very quickly tonight, and all of the models, pretty much everything calls for this to explosively intensify over the southern Gulf here of the Yucatan Peninsula. This is by Tuesday morning. We have winds here of 130 knots. That is a very high-end Cat 4 hurricane. Yeah, I mean, under 2 days, folks, under 2 days, we are looking at a Cat 4 hurricane potentially here on the HMON. And then look what happens. The system really holds on to that intensity. Still strong Cat 4. And by the way, the pressure here gets this down all the way down to 924 millibars. That is very, very impressive. That is not a good situation at all. This is very low pressure, and it actually might meet the definition. If you just look at the air pressure here and not really look at the winds, this could meet the definition of a Category 5 hurricane, theoretically, with pressures that are this low. And then this continues to be pretty intense, but suddenly the HMON continues to indicate that, yeah, it's not going to make landfall at a tropical storm. Not going to happen. I just don't think that's really going to happen, but it is a possible scenario. But even so, tropical storm force winds would be moving over the Tampa Bay area, and this would be Wednesday night. All right, so a pretty big difference between the HWRF and the HMON model showing intensity differences, but the timing pretty consistent here, showing like Wednesday late night and early Thursday morning. So now a more concerning scenario. Let me mute that. A more concerning scenario here is from our pair of halves models, the halves A and the halves B. Now, this is probably not going to happen. I want to really make it clear there's still that intensity uncertainty here. But given the fact that the recon aircraft, the Teal mission, and Miss Piggy, the NOAA reconnaissance mission that flew through the system and collected all that data and has been fed into our 12Z models, this is very alarming. This is not what you want to see at all. After we have ingested new data into the models from Recon, and an upper level drop zone mission is in progress right now, and we'll be looking at that in this live stream. But what it shows is pretty much the same Ricky roll situation here. This shows it pretty well. Again, we got pressures down about 982, 983. Absolute potential pressure 982 millibars, but relative pressure about 984 makes this about a 983 system at around the 2 o'clock hour. Actually might be stronger than that, given that the plane left. So the pressures here could be down into the 980 millibar range. It could have dropped 3 millibars easily. Doesn't surprise me with all the deep convection that we are seeing. So this could be still on task of what may end up happening. And look how compact this system is, which, by the way, the system, so since yesterday's 18Z run, the halves A has done pretty good here, only differencing about 1 or 2 millibars between most of the runs. This was 979 yesterday, 982 on last night's run, 987, that was a little bit of a kind of a high-end scenario, and now back down to 980 millibars. So the fact that this has not really fluctuated and the halves A shows this pretty well is eye-opening, and it is pretty concerning. So now going and taking this forward now, the system, like all the models, no surprise at all, this really intensifies. Now, it might be slow to do something tonight, which has been expected on most of our hurricane models. It doesn't really show that the system is going to really, it may plateau with the intensity tonight. That's what we've been showing you over the last couple of days, or the last 5 model runs, that this is probably rapidly intensifying right now despite diurnal minimum, but by diurnal maximum this may outplay the halves A. We'll see about that, but it doesn't show much intensity through the overnight hours. It's when we get into tomorrow, okay, when we get into tomorrow during the day, when the system really takes that advantage. And look at the pressure here. 951 at about 5 p.m. tomorrow, and then by 8 p.m. pressure down at 948 millibars. This gets really low, and by the time it crosses this poor little island right here, just to the eye is just to the south, this would be a Category 5 hurricane with with pressures down to 924 millibars. All right, pretty alarming, pretty concerning to see that. And this has actually uptrended in the last several models, and now very bullish. As bullish of a model you could actually get in under 2 days. I want to make it clear, this is 45 hours out, and day 2 is 48 hours out, and we are seeing a Cat 5 hurricane in a matter of a couple of days. Hard to believe, but it is possible. We saw this with Lee. Lee really went from, I think, tropical storm to Cat 1 or high-end tropical storm to Cat 4 in 24 hours, and then added another category to that. So it is in the realm of possibility that this may happen with Hurricane Milton. Okay, it has that ceiling, but look at what it does. It gets even stronger. 918 gets down to 914 millibars with winds in that range of Category 5 intensity. And just showing you here that this system is very compact. You can see tropical or hurricane force winds only expand about 26 nautical miles out to the north, and we go out towards the east, it's only 30 nautical miles out, and to the south it's 29, and then to the west it's 27. So roughly about 25 to 30 nautical miles out. So this is really compact, and the distance of maximum winds are about 14 to 15 nautical miles out from the center. So, yeah, very compact system. Now, it gets even stronger than this. 908 millibars. Yeah, 908 millibars. You got to be kidding. You really got to be kidding me on the halves A model. And it's been consistent here in the last couple of runs. Wait. Yeah, well, in the last... Let me go back a few frames, more like here. So it's been showing a very intense system for a while now in this general area. Okay, Cat 5 intensity, been very consistent on that. And so it's not a realm, it's not like it's not going to become a Cat 5. There is that slim possibility still that this could have a ceiling of that. And let's hope it doesn't, because now, again, the question would be, when will it weaken once it gets to Cat 5 intensity, right? But this is going to be making landfall on this model at about a 950 millibar system, and winds here could be certainly stronger than 80 knots or so, probably perhaps maybe 100 miles an hour at landfall. So this would be a Category 2, but again, when does this weaken and how quick it weakens will be very important in later models. Now casting it pretty much once it gets to Cat 5 or 4 or 5 intensity will be more of the thing to do, because we know the system will peak intensity here through Wednesday morning. Yeah, through Wednesday morning, this could peak intensity. So between now and 3 days, this has the ceiling. This really has the potential to really outpace many forecasts. Now, the halves B model showing that, and which, by the way, let me show the timing here. So this would be making landfall in the Florida coast by Wednesday night into Thursday. So pretty much between 2 in the morning and 5 in the morning on Thursday for Florida, for Tampa Bay, looks to get that landfall. Now, the HAVS-B model, we want to show you this too. This is kind of the last set of that, or that second pair of HAVS guidance. And what this is also showing us, again, similar, 982-ish millibars. Did a pretty good job at initializing this. So when we go forward in the modeling here, you can see that the system, again, undergoes rapid intensification. Again, really not tonight. So don't be surprised that, oh, this is not really performing as it is expected. David may be hyping this up. Again, like I said, the models have not indicated really something too significant here through Monday. Perhaps maybe a category 2. We'll see on what the trends look like in the coming hours of the system. But it's really going to be during the day Monday when this really takes off. It really does. And you can see the pressure here really bottoming out here. 917 millibars with 150 knot winds to the south here of this little island and just to the north of the Yucatan Peninsula. And yet, only tropical storm warnings are issued despite this could be a Cat 4 hurricane. That's because it is very compact. If this were a larger system, there would be hurricane force or hurricane warnings out for the northern Yucatan. But now what happens from here? Well, the system could deepen a little bit more, down to as low as 901 millibars, and which, by the way, winds here could peak at almost 160 knots. This is a very concerning system, and that would really meet the definition of about a Category 5 intensity. Now, this does not mean we will see a Category 5 hurricane, all right? I don't want to scare you all. I don't want to jump the gun and say, oh, this will become a Cat 5 hurricane. You all in the Tampa Bay area must get prepared for an unsurvivable situation. No, I'm really not going that far, and I don't think still for right now this is going to become a Cat 5. I think we're looking at the mid-range of a low-end and a mid-grade Cat 4 hurricane for the time being, based on our latest guidance. But if this continues and if it meets reality, then we could see a Cat 5 hurricane and would be the second Cat 5 hurricane this hurricane season and would be the second Cat 5 hurricane to make landfall in a land area. Yes, Beryl did not make landfall as a Cat 5 anywhere, but the fact that Beryl was a Cat 5 hurricane and it was a named storm, it made landfall in Texas. And it made landfall on some of the Windward Islands. Here's another exception. Look at this. We have Milton that may become a Cat 5, and if it does, it's not going to make landfall at Cat 5 in Tampa Bay, Florida. No, it's not going to do that. It's going to be weakening more than likely, but still going to be a big system nonetheless. But what I want to really emphasize here is, too, would be our second landfall from a Cat 5 system, even so it's not a Cat 5. I hope you followed me there and I didn't throw you guys off. But anyways, this system gets down to 901 millibars on the HAVS-B, probably a little bit of an outlier right here. But look how strong this gets. Yeah, this goes right over Tampa Bay, Florida. And yes, you are seeing hurricane force winds here. And this would be making landfall by about 5 in the morning on Thursday. So narrowing this down a little bit between, like I said, 2 in the morning Thursday and 5 in the morning Thursday. Anywhere in this little area, okay, this could still shift southward, remember, okay, somewhere in this area needs to be watching the system. And not to mention, even Sarasota down here, Cape Coral, Florida, really need to be watching this, okay? If this deviates any further south and it trends a little further south, Sarasota could have another Ian, not another Ian situation because it would be weakening. It won't be as strong as Ian when that beast made landfall, but the track forecast is similar to Ian, that the fact that it's going to be making, that it could make landfall somewhere down here in the Sarasota Bay versus what our models are showing right now over Tampa Bay, Florida. Regardless of where this makes landfall, there will be tropical storm force winds spreading inland, near hurricane force winds as well, and all preparations need to be considered right now. Do not reverse your preparations just because that, oh, this is weakening. This is not going to be a Cat 3 hurricane at landfall. We don't know that. We really don't. All right. And The stronger the hurricane becomes, it's like wishing on when will it weaken? How soon will it weaken? How rapidly will it weaken before it reaches the Florida coast? Because we know tropical storm force winds will arrive in portions of Tampa Bay by Wednesday afternoon or even Wednesday late morning before the hurricane force winds get into that area. I really, really need to emphasize that this has the potential of being a historic event. And the word historic is not used very lightly. I've talked to some people on Twitter about this recently, saying that this could be once in a lifetime, once in a 100-year strike to the Tampa Bay area. And like I said, I want to make sure my history is correct here, but if it reads correctly, this is not good. This is not what you want. This is no. This is not good news. This is not good news at all. And in fact, is the worst news that we have seen probably from a hurricane this hurricane season. All right, even Helene was strong enough, but we knew all too well that Helene would probably not become a Cat 5 hurricane, but still did a lot of destruction up here, which too, it was historic. Keep in mind, not historic winds, not a historic inundation or a landfall. We have had many landfalls up here. But now, the other historic side of this is that the system would be making landfall potentially in a very densely metropolitan area of Florida, like Sarasota or Tampa Bay, Florida. Now, even so, the cone of uncertainty is shifted south. This could shift back again. So, like the cone of uncertainty now still swallows up Tampa Bay completely, Orlando, as well as Sarasota, and theoretically, Miami, Florida still needs to be watching this system. All right, actually, we did get the new advisory out. Let's see, and they're up to 85, and we do have now hurricane watches out. All right, that's very bad. And now they're forecasting a major hurricane by tomorrow afternoon. So that really lines up with this. So we have now a major hurricane now expected by tomorrow late morning, early afternoon. And now expecting a hurricane even over the crossing and a major hurricane at landfall. And the cone of uncertainty has shifted a little bit back to the north again. So yes, Tampa Bay, you need to get prepared for this. You really do. And I don't care if I fearmonger, okay? I don't care. I'm going to rant a little bit here. I don't care if I fearmonger or cause panic. You need to absolutely be afraid of this system. This really has the DNA of that of a Katrina or not really a Michael, because Michael made landfall at Cat 5, but it has the DNA and looks of being a very impactful hurricane, something that we do not want to see, okay? I believe me, we don't want to see anything like this, and unfortunately, it is in reality. So actually, I'm going to jump ahead, and I'm going to show you, yeah, look at this, 983 millibars. Yeah, that's actually deeper. It is actually officially deeper than our hurricane models predicted. And let's see. Yeah, this is now a 145 mile an hour hurricane. That is what I'm going with pretty much. And I kind of emphasize that this could become a Cat 4 more than likely. And it will show, it now shows that. But before we get back to that and show you all the intensity, major hurricane by tomorrow and major hurricane up until landfall right now based on the NHC. That's not good. And it doesn't matter if this is a Cat 4 or a Cat 3 hurricane. A major hurricane making landfall. I mean, Katrina, I believe, made landfall of a low-end Cat 4 or a high-end Cat 3, something like that. And yet, that thing obliterated a lot of areas. So you have to think population wins over the major hurricane aspect of this. All right, it's kind of like you put a major hurricane and it heads to New York. It doesn't matter. You're impacting over 10 million people. Here, you're over 5 to 10 million people are in the danger zone of this system. Okay. So now looking at let me actually go over to the graphics. There we go. So now looking at the key messages for Hurricane Milton, okay, as of 4 p.m., you need to listen in, all right? And please share this stream with your family and friends on social media. I pray for the love of God, please share this, because my duty, my job is to get this out to as many people as we can possible. Because again, 145 is still somewhat generous given our hurricane models that do show a Cat 5 hurricane. Not explicitly shown in my thumbnail because I want to really make sure that if it does become Cat 5, I need to be very sure about that. And then we could up that. Okay. Milton is forecasted to become a major hurricane when it reaches the west coast of the Florida Peninsula midweek. Users are reminded to not focus on the details of the forecast as there remains significant, and I want to really make it clear here, significant uncertainty in the eventual track and intensity of Milton. So both intensity and track are uncertain here, and wiggles to the north and to the south are not out of the question. All right, if you're in the cone or if you're basically in the Big Bend of Florida and southward, you need to be getting prepared for a pretty serious system, pretty big disaster. While it is too soon to specify the exact magnitude and location of these greatest impacts, and again, impacts win and take the war over intensity. Okay, intensity is win. All right, well, what else comes with the major hurricane? Let's see. Storm surge. What else? Coastal, surf. You get lots of high surf. And what else did I miss? Flooding. You get freshwater flooding and a lot of it with this system. So I'm really not focused on how strong this is going to be at landfall. What I'm really focused on how big will the impacts actually be. Because those do kill people. And unfortunately, I think we're up to almost 300 fatalities. Or something like 200 to 300 fatalities with the predecessor of Helene. Wow. I'm just telling you right now that this has the ability of costing many lives. It really is. Okay. So storm surge and hurricane watches will likely be issued tonight or early Monday for Florida. Residents in the Florida Peninsula should follow any advice given by local officials and monitor the updates to the forecast. All right, please, for the love of God, please follow your local officials and local authorities to get the latest updates. If you're told to evacuate, you are to do so. Do not stay behind because, again, if this ends up being a lot stronger at landfall than what the forecast calls for, the impacts are just that much worse. Areas of heavy rainfall will impact portions of Florida through Monday, well ahead of Milton, with heavy rainfall more directly related to Milton expected on Tuesday through Wednesday night. This rainfall will bring the risk of considerable flash urban and aerial flooding, along with the potential for moderate to major river flooding now. That's not good. So we're talking about considerable flash flooding, urban flooding, and major river flooding potentially with this. And of course, the storm surge to combine with overflowing rivers and streams will just make matters a lot worse than what is needed. All right, just really heed my advice. Really do. Okay. Tropical storm conditions are expected with hurricane conditions possible beginning Monday across portions of the northern Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, where a tropical storm warning and hurricane watch are in effect. Notice where the most important points are in this discussion. They're for Florida first and then for the Yucatan last. Not that they don't want to give out any points of concern for the Yucatan, but the fact is this is going to be safely, more likely, somewhat safely, not really safely, but you have a hurricane watch issued, but the impacts for Florida will be much more significant than those for the Yucatan, unless this mysteriously heads way to the south and actually makes landfall in the Yucatan. All right. So now the most likely arrival time of tropical storm force winds have not changed a whole lot from yesterday. only to increase the probabilities just a little bit over the Tampa Bay area to now up to 80% chance of tropical storm force winds for that area. There is even a little bit of a red area here over the western or eastern coast of Florida where there is a 70% chance of tropical storm force winds. And you can see here, tropical storm force winds, the most likely arrival time of those here would be Wednesday at 8 in the morning through Wednesday night. All right, tropical storm comes before hurricane force winds. So and just take that into consideration that you do have time to prepare for this. And it looks like by Wednesday late morning, mid-morning, early afternoon, tropical storm force winds do arrive. So now what about the rainfall impacts here for Florida? As you can see here, there is Tampa Bay has a risk of seeing up to 6 to 8 inches of rainfall. Orlando, 6 to 8 inches. Jacksonville, 4 to 6 inches of rainfall. And then, of course, in isolated areas like St. Pete, as well as Helena, I forgot the little county name, whatever it is, over here in the peninsula, could see up to about maybe a foot of rainfall, perhaps, with this, and even a foot of rainfall quite close there for southern Florida. So now looking at the risk for major flooding, Tampa Bay is encircled here with the moderate risk of flooding. Orlando, too, near Jacksonville, under a moderate risk for flooding as well, including for Miami, Florida. So, I mean, yeah, Miami may not see hurricane force winds. Pinellas. Okay, I got it. All right, that's what I was thinking, Pinellas. I wanted to just make sure I pronounced it correctly. All right, so Pinellas, something like that, yeah. So Miami, Florida, could see a moderate risk of flooding, and it's not just the tropical storm or hurricane force winds that could see that. The rainfall spreads well away from the system, so we got to keep that in mind. All right, now to the intensity forecast. All right, I want to read this out because this is important. All right, and actually, okay, yeah, that is right. Okay. So I want to read this discussion, all right, and I rarely do that in these videos or in these live streams because it's boring and long, but we really need to really look at this, okay? Milton is rapidly intensifying. Satellite images indicate very deep convection in the eye wall and hints of an eye starting to appear. Okay, an eye starting to appear. The last fix from the aircraft showed that the central pressure was down to 985 millibars, about 30 millibars less than 80 minutes prior, and winds supporting 70 knot winds at the surface. Since that time, satellite images continue to show further organization, and the initial wind speed is set to 75 knots in this advisory, which, by the way, the pressure has dropped about 983 millibars, so about a 5 millibar drop in pressure in about an hour's time frame. It's pretty deep. 5 millibars, you don't want to know how deep this could get if it drops at 5 millibars in an hour. Milton is moving just south of due east at about 6 knots. Okay, this equard motion has been more than expected, probably due to a stronger low mid-level frontal low over the northeastern Gulf of Mexico. The frontal future is forecast to weaken while it moves across Florida and gradually lose its influence on Milton. This evolution should allow the hurricane to turn eastward on Monday and then accelerate to the northeast on Tuesday and Wednesday toward the Florida Peninsula ahead of the trough moving offshore of Texas. The NHC forecast is a bit south of the previous one through 48 hours, following the trend of the guidance at that time, and the government of Mexico has issued a hurricane watch for a portion of the northern coast of Yucatan. Later on, the guidance is similar to or slightly north of the last cycle, which we talked about how it shifted back to the north a little bit and very little changes made to the forecast near Florida. It should be noted that the average NHC track air at day 3 is about 100 miles, and users should not focus. Please do not focus on the exact center and the exact track. Okay, please take that into consideration. Do not focus on the exact track, as this could trend north or south from the exact center, okay? The intensity forecast appears straightforward at first, with rapid intensification while the small hurricane remains within light shear and over very deep warm waters. Intensity guidance is about as bullish as I've seen in this part of the basin. Wow. My gosh, folks. My Jesus Lord Almighty. I don't say that word very often. The NHC intensity guidance is as bullish as I've seen in this part of the basin. As bullish. Seriously, folks, wake up. This is going to be a problem. Intensity guidance is about as bullish as I've seen in this basin. Okay, with almost everything showing a peak intensity of 4 or 5 in the southern Gulf of Mexico in a day or two. The NHC forecast is raised from the previous one and lies near the intensity consensus model and still could be too low. Oh, another big point here. Could be too low. Okay, this is really a wake-up call right here. Could still be too low. Wow, NHC, probably a high-end 155 mile an hour hurricane, maybe a category 5 hurricane. Maybe that they mentioned it in this discussion. Actually, there is a 25% chance that this does become a Cat 5 hurricane in the Gulf. How about that? That's my bullish forecast on this system. Okay. Later on, vertical wind shear is forecast to markedly increase as Milton approaches Florida, and some weakening is anticipated. However, the regional hurricane models are showing that the system growing even if it weakens, and we are expecting Milton to be a large hurricane at landfall with very dangerous impacts spread out over a big area. There is increasing confidence that a powerful hurricane with life-threatening hazards will be affecting portions of the Florida West Coast around the middle of this week. Residents there should really closely monitor this system and listen to local officials. Please, folks, this is bad. This is bad. And the fact that they used the word category 4 or 5 in their discussion, yeah, this is the time to not mess around with this system. This is a time to really take this seriously as you could ever imagine. All right. So now looking at the intensity forecast on this. All right, now this is yesterday's 0Z runs, because I'm going to look at the last 4 runs for you all on the intensity guidance here, because this is pretty important. This is nothing to mess with. So this was this was last night's intensity forecast. Believe it? Yeah, okay, this is correct. So this was last night, and what you see here, of course, the uncertainty here, but watch what I do when I go through the next 4 runs, okay? This is last night. This is the 060 run. Take note, too, that we only had one model pointing this at Cat 5 intensity. Now, the second model here is getting even closer to Cat 5 intensity, but not there. Okay, this is 060 run, but watch this. The 18Z run, a little bit more bullish. Now showing what? 2 models reaching Category 5 intensity. Category 5 intensity, with the majority showing more like a Cat 3 and a Cat 4. But this is when it really, my jaw drops. Literally. Look at the 18Z run. Look at that huge uptrend. All of a sudden, right in here, watch this, how this really just kind of goes up with the latest run. All of the models now, most of them, now calling this to become a Cat 4 hurricane. Okay, and now more concerning, we have 3 models now that bring this to Category 5 intensity. Okay, So now a Cat 4 or even a Cat 5 hurricane, Cat 4 to Cat 5 hurricane, which by the way is not a major hurricane. A Cat 5 is not a major hurricane. It's a super hurricane. It's worse than a major hurricane. Hence its name. It's not official, by the National Hurricane Center. Major is major, but in my books, Cat 3, 4, major, Cat 5, super. Okay? So we could be looking here at a super hurricane impacting, well, not impacting anyone, thank goodness, but over the middle of the Gulf, on approach to Florida. And again, how quick does the weakening happen is going to be very important. Because if it happens pretty slowly here, if it does kind of like this, well, Florida's in trouble. Florida's in some serious trouble. This could be a high-end Cat 3, maybe a low-end Cat 4 hurricane, potentially. So, but look at this. Going through this again, look at the difference right here. Again, the last 4 models on Milton, and you can see how the intensity really goes up here. It really does. Thank you, John D, for the donation. I do appreciate it very much. I do appreciate the donation. By the way, if you guys do like the live update that I am providing, please subscribe to the YouTube channel because, yeah, I'm going to be going live on this. You bet I will be. We'll do another live discussion tomorrow, of course. I'm probably going to time it more, probably for the morning hours. Might have to do 2 live discussions tomorrow on this. All right. So also another thing to keep in mind before we get to quick questions, I only have about 15 or so minutes to do questions. 3 hurricanes happening at the same time. We got Hurricane Kirk, we got Hurricane Milton, and we have Hurricane Leslie. Yeah, 3 hurricanes with a 4th area to watch still out there in the Atlantic. All right. I mean, like, seriously, dude. I mean, talk about a busy October. Really starting off pretty busy with 3 hurricanes at the same time. The trio of canes, that is. Okay, so I'm nervous to look at satellite, folks. I know I'm acting a little weird here. I don't even want to see satellite. How does it look, folks? I'm going to get to questions, though. How does it look on satellite? I don't even want to look. I know that's not professional me of doing, but I cannot look at a system. I really can't. David, can you please advise your listeners about D-Land? D-Land, yes. I will do that. It looks, there are some bursts. Yes, it's now a hurricane, PS. Yeah, so I'm going to now iterate on that. Okay, but I wanted to show this very quickly. Then we'll get to the questions. Yeah, look at the new deep convection. Oh, wow. Yeah, this is now this is starting to show signs of banding in the cirrus flow right here. This is looking very organized, actually. In fact, one could even argue this looks almost like a Category 2 hurricane. Literally. And the center is right by this buoy. Now, look at that pressure drop, 948 millibars, with winds of almost 80 miles an hour, gusting up to almost 80 on that. So, yes, this is really organizing very quickly. All right, let me go to D-Land, Florida, right? If you keep asking. So, yeah, let me get to that. So D-Land, Florida, is going to get some pretty big impacts. Definitely tropical storm force winds and some very heavy rainfall. Maybe even some life-threatening flooding. Actually, could even see some catastrophic flooding in that area, just depending on how much rainfall actually occurs over that area. Doesn't look very good for the Daytona Beach, D-Land area, Deltona, Orange City, Lake Helen. Doesn't look good at all for that area. So Again, I'm not going to be able to get to all your guys' questions. I only have like 10 minutes. So Charlotte County. Again, Charlotte County will be seen. Yeah, Charlotte County is in the concerning stages of a pretty significant event here of tropical storm to even getting, maybe, depending on where this actually goes, hurricane force winds at landfall. But yeah, look at all this deep convection here. This is pretty deep. You're very welcome, Joe. But yeah, the system really, really intensifying. It now looks more, it has a closed eye wall at this point. It really does. The CDO is very uniform, very intense. I mean, we have cloud tops here colder than negative 80 Celsius right now. Thank you, Gen C, for the $5 donation. I do appreciate all the donations, folks. I do appreciate you all tuning in. I know this is a lot earlier, and a lot of you are probably still at work. It just has to be the way it is. But tomorrow, I will be doing a live stream in the morning, probably in the early afternoon, and then do another one after I get home from work. Because, yeah, we are going to have to do at least 2 updates a day. Might even have to fit a third one if necessary. You're very welcome, Divine. Yeah, cloud tops are definitely very cold right now, and this is not a good situation. Oh, yeah, look at that deep convection right there. Really intense. You know what? What is... Wow. What is the pressure on that? 2948. So 29.48. That's, okay, 998 millibars. So it's not really in that, just below 1,000 millibars. Boy, that is pretty high, though. The system is right here, and that's not very far. It's about 43 miles out from the center, perhaps. So it's very compact. That's what it looks like right now. Really compact. And geez, who knows how high the ceiling on this could get. What about Jacksonville, Florida? So without showing on the map, because I know where Jacksonville is, Jacksonville, Florida could get quite a bit of rainfall, possibly more than 5 inches of rainfall in that area. With, of course, tropical storm to near hurricane force winds, because it would be re-emerging over the Atlantic again on the other side of Florida. So you could get some frontal-based hurricane force winds, potentially. Daytona Beach. So Daytona is near Delray area. Actually, not very close to Delray Beach, sorry. So Daytona Beach, I should already know this. Far eastern Florida, again, strong tropical storm to near hurricane force winds are anticipated with that. Miami, Florida could get tropical storm force winds. Again, just how close this gets, all right? Definitely getting some impacts, though. You could get some water spouts and tornadoes out of this. Actually, a big tornado threat with this could emerge. You're very welcome, Golf Nut. What about Bermuda? Bermuda is not going to get anything right now. That's way too far out. I'm not even focused on Bermuda right now. But this would probably miss Bermuda with ease. And it would be really weakening at that time, so I'm not really concerned about that. Another 6 minutes, folks, and then I'm probably going to have to call it. By the way, if you have not subscribed yet, please do so. It really means a lot. It really does. Because I will be doing updates on this. Geez, almost 31,000 subs, folks. Can't believe it. Cannot even believe it. Thank you, guys. I'm in Riverview. Okay. But yeah, just to review with what we talked about, again, this system, to repeat, has a ceiling of a Cat 5 hurricane right now, based on the NHC update, based on a lot of the data that we've collected. This has a nightmarish look to it. It really does. And like I said, models are here for a reason, and I'm telling you, the majority of them are taking this pretty extreme, including our HMON and our HAVS A and B models that are taking this all the way up to a Cat 5 hurricane. Thank you for the $10 donation. Thank you for your updates. Got a notification from AccuWeather that my area in Vero Beach is in for 55-mile-an-hour sustained winds and 80-mile-an-hour wind gusts. I wonder how intense it will get if Milton lands as a Cat 4. Well, the stronger this makes at landfall, thank you for the $10 donation. I do appreciate all the donations. Thank you, Ruben Torres, for the $4 donation. Again, I do appreciate that very much. So the stronger this does make landfall, okay, the bigger the impacts will be. All right, the impacts already, let alone, will be life-threatening, most likely. In fact, let me check the official NHC forecast on their cone. Hold on a second. Oops, come on. Yes, okay, so yeah, this is not good. 120-mile-an-hour winds at landfall. Gusts up to 150 miles an hour. This is terrible. This is just terrible news to hear that the cone does intersect Sarasota, Sister Key down here. Very, actually, almost identical to Ian's approach, actually, kind of in this general area. And this is a very populated area, by the way. If this goes any further to the north, like Pinellas Park, Riverview, think about all the water that this could bring on shore. I mean, this bay is really, really big, and this could really pile everything up. So if the center goes just to the north here, this could really be a... I don't want to really use the word. Not even going to use it in this live stream, because if I do, I could get called out for it, because it's a wording that many people have not heard before. Pinellas, yeah. But yeah, 120 at landfall is the potential here. And by the way, the peak intensity here is well noted on the NHC, 145, maybe peaking even a little later than that right here on the forecast. Remember, this is a 85-mile-an-hour hurricane right now, and doesn't surprise me if this is even stronger. I mean, imagining if this gets to be 100 miles an hour in the next update, and it has only moved this much, this could be a Cat 3 even by late tonight. And if the sooner this becomes a major hurricane, the stronger this could potentially get. And wow, the system really, really taking on quick organization right now. Unbelievable. Look at this. Very quick organization, really shaping up. Yeah, look at this. Is where the eye might be, right in here somewhere. Wow, that's a very small system. And it does appear that there may be like an eye-like future trying to appear very gradually. Pine Ellis, yeah. Pinellas. All right. I think that's gonna do it. Oh my gosh, I cannot even say Pinellas. Pinellas. All right, it is Pinellas. See, it takes time for me to say it correctly. It is a little tongue twister for me. It really is. Okay, not that I don't know how to pronounce it. I mean, people say it differently. So, yeah. But I do love you guys, and oh my gosh. I am going to be so distracted at work tonight. Just pray that I could not be distracted at work tonight, because I just, yeah. I'm not going to get through tonight really well. I am really not. It's going to be hard. It really is going to be hard. Man, if I had a 1 hour lunch at my work, I would go downright live on this, even for my or even for my 1 hour lunch. All right, everyone. Well, anyways, thank you all for tuning in. That's really going to sum it up for this discussion. Wow, right on the hour mark. Again, I will be live tomorrow. I might do a little shorts update during my lunchtime, so make sure you do look on my channel for a shorts update. That's probably the best I can do, considering that I'm away from home, but I'll try to make it work out, because this thing is rapidly intensifying at a very big rate right now, and rapid fire updates will be necessary if this trend continues. All right, but be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, and also hit the like button and share this live stream with your family and friends on social media. As always, have a good rest of your Sunday. I'll be back with you more very soon on this system.